Yes, and we're live. Hello. We're kicking the 200K webinar off today with this first webinar. And today we're joined by Kashaf Bashir from Enreach. And before we start with the webinar, we have a few points we want to share with you. We have some giveaways during this webinar where 400 Enreach is being shared. So make sure you watch the YouTube description because there's a link on how to join. During the webinar, there will be a code that's being shared. And if you can find that code in the webinar, you can paste it in the Gleam link. And with that entry, you have a chance to win some of that Enreach, and the total value of Enreach being shared is $1,200. So it is a nice price. And if you also complete some other actions in Gleam, you'll be eligible for more of that prize. And today I'm also being joined by Certified. Hey, Certified, how are you doing?
Hi, Ape. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine too. And before we kick it off, there is a message from our sponsors.
PrimeXBT is the most powerful trading platform offering immediate access to over 30 assets. Trade cryptocurrencies, Forex, commodities, stock indices, and much more, all from a single Bitcoin settled account. Visit the link below and start trading on PrimeXBT in minutes.
FERRUM Network is an interoperable DeFi ecosystem offering token pre-sales, staking as a service, project incubation, and much more. Visit thebirbnest.com/FERRUM. Globe is an upcoming crypto derivatives exchange offering up to 100 times leverage on crypto and DeFi perpetual contracts. Sign up for early rewards at thebirbnest.com/globe. RADIX is the first Layer 1 protocol built specifically to serve DeFi. More information at thebirbnest.com/radix. YFDAI is democratizing finance by creating the most secure, transparent, and user-friendly ecosystem of DeFi products. To learn more, visit thebirbnest.com/YFDAI.
Okay, let's welcome our guest, Kashaf Bashir. Hi, Kashaf. How are you doing?
Hey, Abe. Hey, Certified. How you doing?
Doing well. Hope you're well too.
Yeah, enjoying my bank holiday. Thank you very much.
That sounds great. What is your position in Enreach?
So I'm one of the founders, the co-founders of Enreach DAO. I have another co-founder who many tend to see the description as my work husband. That's Abdelkader Alam. So Kader and I, we have been partners for many years. We met for the first time, I think it was in 2011, 2012, and we've been building together ever since. So Enreach DAO, we have, even though Kader and I were the original founders, we have a risk committee made up of individuals who have supported the project. So we've got the guys from Source Digital Assets. The founder there is Brian Elders. We have our very own Callum Graham, Macro CRG, which many of you have probably saw his tweets and his TA on Twitter. And he has been a long-standing supporter since the early days of deciding to move ahead. And we also have some community members who have recently joined. So Adam Wise, who's a quantitative analyst who works for a bank out in Hong Kong and is one of the original pre-salers in Enreach DAO, and also a security company founder called Amardeep Man, who's a friend of mine who I've known for a very long time, has some inroads to some amazing security and audit workers. One specific guy who's been around the Bitcoin scene since inception. And recently, we also appointed a great guy who's actually our representative over in the US, a guy called Giovanni Torone. Johnny Johnny was actually one of our original investors for Optimize, or was trying to be one of the original investors for Optimize, and he missed out on our company. And him and I have remained friends. He's a shareholder in a $40 million dollar company in the US, which he's recently sold, and he's known in the telecoms market as was the prepaid king in the US, who was responsible for pretty much all the calling cards that were going around in the US for calling Latin America and other places. So that's pretty much the core team of Enreach DAO, and pretty much the founding members, I would say, of our DAO as well.
Sounds good. It seems you have a strong team together with a lot of experience here. Could you tell us a little bit more about how the idea for Enreach started?
Yeah, so Kader and I back in 2000, so when we met, I used to have, in 2012, I used to have a telecoms company. The telecoms company was involved in a vertical in the telecoms market known as wholesale carrier telecoms. And wholesale carrier telecoms is effectively, if we are making phone calls, if we are making SMS messages, or if you're receiving SMS messages from your app or your bank or your energy company, for argument's sake, those messages and phone calls are actually traded by telecoms companies at a wholesale level. Okay, so let's say, for example, I'm making a phone call. I'm making a phone call from the UK to, let's say, to the US, and I pick up the phone. I dial the number. At some point, that call goes through carriers, telcos, who are trading on minutes as if we were trading crypto. Okay, it's a $650 billion per annum industry in the voice sector. The SMS sector is around about 60 billion a year, and even though we have a lot of apps nowadays in which we can call people for free, like Skype, WhatsApp, Telegram, to call abroad, it's still a relatively, it doesn't have the growth that it used to, but it's still a growing sector because the number of minutes and the number of messages that are interacting through a telco's network are still increasing. So the volume might be increasing, but the revenues are a little stagnant. Nonetheless, Kader and I, we used to run a telco. And back in the days, this was around about 2012. This was when we still had the Allied forces in Afghanistan. This was still when there was occupation of Afghanistan after 9/11. And we used to focus on termination, voice termination, basically international phone calls to specific destinations like Afghanistan. So back then, our company used to sell minutes to all the big operators, the Telstras, the TeliaSoneras, many of the prepaid operators globally. We used to sell them our minutes effectively. And this was done by creating a network which included voice switches. But what we did as a tech company was we built the infrastructure that interoperated with any voice switch that there was. So, apologies, 1 second.
We're missing some audio on your end. I think the audio was interrupted on Kashaf's end.
guys.
Yes, hey, you're back.
My phone goes off literally every other minute, so my Bluetooth, my AirPods were switching across, and it was actually Kata calling me in the background. So apologies about that. So what I was saying was, what we built technology that interoperated on top of voice switches, and this technology over time is morphed into what our company optimizes today. So our background is effectively settling trading in voice minutes, and we build technology that allows for the trading of these minutes to be done in real time. So a bit like how we go to a centralized exchange or a DEX, and we want to purchase some tokens or coins. Everything is done in near real time. Obviously, after the blockchain or the orders are settled upon. We built a financial technology infrastructure called ComSettle that allows telcos to trade minutes and SMS in real time. So this is the background that we came from. Back in 2013, we had a telco, and we went through the whole process of understanding the business, understanding the market, dealing with cash flow issues as a business, understanding the problems that other telcos go through in the industry, and over time, we even though the telco business was getting harder, we started building our financial technology infrastructure. And back in 2016, unfortunately, my company went into administration, and mainly because our industry is a bit like the wild wild west of DeFi today, which is that there was the equivalent of rug pulls in telecoms, which is where you gave credit to a telco or you prepaid a telco and they just didn't pay you back. And unfortunately, my company went through that process many times. We had too much exposure. Company went into administration, but a number of months later, around about a year later, we met our other co-founder, which he was on the contributors list. His name is Orlando Tadeo. He's an Italian guy who has a private equity fund in Ireland called Heritage Ventures, and that's where we met. Also, Johnny Torone, both Orlando, the two Italians, one American Italian, one Italian. They were vying for seeding our company Optimize. Heritage Ventures won out because they're prominent in the telecoms market. And back in 2019, Kate and we released the beta version of our ComSettle platform. So as I mentioned earlier, ComSettle is a real-time settlement platform, the only platform of its kind, which moves money in line with actual real-time voice calls that people are making, that the telcos are trading. Okay, since 2019, June 2019, we have settled upon 0.6 billion euros in transactions. Close to 4 billion minutes have went through our platform since then. So it's been a fantastic ride since then, and that was the journey that led us to where we are today. And the reason we started Enreach DAO was that back in, I think it was 2018, back end of 2017, start of 2018, we came up with the concept of Enreach, which was to create a platform from the cryptocurrency industry whereby we could provide credit insurance, meaning insurance from people that you give credit to, so that if they don't pay, the insurance pays. So we wanted to create insurance against credit default. And we also wanted to use that insurance to then underwrite cash advances against the future debt that you were giving to a telco. So let's say, for example, I was selling minutes to Telia Sonera, and Telia Sonera, they might require 60 days worth of credit. So that 60 days would be invoicing every 30 days or every month, and then receiving a payment within the following month. So in our business, in the telecoms business, typically the carriers who make the most money are the ones who are able to pay their vendors very quickly, say on a prepaid or on a daily basis. So if you're paying somebody 10 grand a day in order to sell to Telia Sonera 11 grand a day, then ultimately you're taking on nearly 660 grand worth of exposure when you've been paying out 600 grand before you get paid the 660. So ultimately, if you don't get paid, you're out of pocket 600,000. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to create an insurance and a funding vehicle through the cryptocurrency industry, whereby you were protected from giving the likes of the Telia Soneras, the Verizons, the AT&Ts of this world, the credit terms, so that you could then draw down on the cash based on the future cash flow of what you were going to be paid by the tier one. Unfortunately, in 2018, we hadn't had this advent of DeFi. Obviously, DeFi only happened last year, and we were still pretty new and young to the fintech arena. We hadn't even released our ComSettle platform at that stage. And so we sort of shelved the plans, but we had this basic white paper that I had written back in 2018. And I think it was last summer, the summer of DeFi. Brian and the guys at Source Digital Assets, we were on a call with them. And, I remember it was actually Stephen Brown. Stephen Brown's one of the team leads at Leprechaun. And Source Digital Assets also work with Labs Group as well. And so Stephen on the call was like, Cash, Kader, have you thought about starting a governance community? And I remember I'd already invested in a few. I'd been crypto since 2017. I bought like 15,000 Link back at like 30 cents back in the day. And I remember I'd already bought into some governance communities, and I was like, oh, I like this idea of governance. So Enreach DAO really came about as a result of, our advisors really saying, look, we should look into this. Why don't you reignite the vision that you had in 2018? And obviously with the advent of DeFi, we were in a completely different market compared to 2018. And so when we started looking into it, we realized that what you can build on top of the Ethereum network is just out of this world. It as some have described it as money Legos to build on top of. That literally is what it felt like. We had already built financial technology on USD and Euro and GBP bank payment rails. And our ComSettle platform is the equivalent of a layer 2 technology. So what ComSettle does is it runs meta transactions on top of the bank accounts, and it'll batch it up. It will batch up like a bit like ZK rollups. It will batch up all the payments because, sometimes you have calls which are only like a cent or 2 cents in value. And so you don't want to move money for a cent or 2 cents. You want to move money for something a little bit larger so that the cost of moving the money, the cost of settlement, is a lot cheaper compared to what you're moving. So we built this meta layer on top of fiat, which allowed us to move money for telcos so that we batched up their money and then moved it on the bank accounts when it hits certain values. So with the advent of DeFi, with our platform being live, with us having a lot of telcos using our platform, we decided to move forward with Enreach DAO. And funnily enough, it also coincided with COVID as well. So I'm pretty sure most of us have been in some form of COVID prison. I know I have for a little while. So before COVID happened, we move money for telcos, and we have this ability to fund the telcos' traffic through our platform, whether it's a third-party funder or whether it's done, through a client that's using our platform. So we had decided to partner with a fintech company in Germany that was it was invested into by Deutsche Bank, and Deutsche Bank was going to buy the telecoms debt of many of the tier one telcos that we were going to introduce into the fintech platform. But COVID happened. The world became a little bit of a mess for a little while. And many of the banks, they got very, very busy with CBILS money, which was the monies that businesses and individuals received as a result of the the plans to sort of prop up economies. Deutsche Bank was the same. They became very busy with rolling out CBILS money. Their business models in debt receivables became a little obsolete at the time. And at the same time, COVID caused a lot of economic pressures. So insurance, for example, became very expensive, especially in the credit markets. And as well as that, funding opportunities for receivables became expensive or non-existent, especially in our market as well. So it was the great time. It was the sort of the stars aligned at the time in order for us to really move forward with Enreach DAO. And then obviously Stephen, Brian, Andrew of Soars, put the seed of thought into our head. Why not create a governance community? You could do this, and you could then create the liquidity that you needed in order to fund telecom receivables. So that was how Enreach DAO was sort of born into existence. It was an original idea back in 2018. Circumstances brought us to where we are today. And the whole idea was that we have, a huge amount of liquidity running through our platform already, and we wanted to deliver more liquidity into our platform, so that telcos could use that liquidity to do more, to trade more, and also it's a safe and relatively safe vehicle of investment for passive investors. So nowadays, trade receivables is invested into by not just by banks, but there are peer-to-peer platforms in the decentralized finance world where you can buy the telecom receivable, receivables in general of companies, and because there's a short-term redemption to those to payment of those receivables, it's seen as a relatively safe but secured asset to invest into. So
wow,
that's how Enreach DAO came about.
That's a good backstory. And like one of the critiques on crypto coins is that, like, what's the use case? But you explained your use case and where you're coming from. Absolutely great. And it's a huge market you're tapping into. It's a traditional market that benefits from crypto. Are you trying to reach out to those telecom providers and finding a way to onboard them on Enreach?
It's not necessarily onboarding onto Enreach. It's at the minute we've got the largest provider on our ComSettle platform is Orange, France Telecom, and we went through a long proof of concept with them where they're looking to use our ComSettle platform as their digital sales channel, their indirect digital sales channel, so that they can work more with telcos globally. Okay, with a guarantee of getting paid because it's real-time settlement. So we already have around about 65 telcos on our platform, and those 65 telcos are connected to some of the biggest operators in the world. And every smaller telco, they suffer from the same issues, and it's the same with their sales guys. They have the same problems and frictions in this industry, which is that many of the companies in this industry today, they have to give huge amounts of credit to the really big operators such as Orange, such as Verizon, such as AT&T. They have to give anywhere between 60 to 120 days worth of credit before they get paid for what the services that they've delivered to them, which is the termination of minutes or SMS. Now, this has a massive strain on cash flow, okay? For example, when I had my company back in the days, I was doing on average anywhere between 100,000, 200,000 in revenue every day. Okay. And I was making around about 2-3% margin on that revenue. Now, when you're giving that amount of credit to somebody that's paying you after 60 days, it's a massive burden on your cash flow. And in most cases, many of these companies don't have the cash flow in order to deliver that level of credit to go and meet that business. So the trend in the market came from being able to deliver, to go and get insurance products from companies like Euler Hermes, and then use, factoring or discounting facilities from your bank or third-party providers, whereby you could sell the debt on a daily basis if you engineered your business in the right way, you could sell the debt on a daily basis and receive, say, 95% of the revenue that you collected as cash in your bank account. Now, what our ComSettle platform does is it actually moves money in real time through the supply chain. And telecom supply chains can be very long. There could be sometimes up to 10 parties in the chain. So you might have, say, on one side, you might have Orange making a call here, okay? But on the other side, it could be, let's say if they're making a call to Morocco, for argument's sake, or to Morocco Telecom, there could be 10 telcos in the middle trading on those minutes. Now, if everybody's collecting money on different payment schedules, then what you have is it could be 100,000 on a daily basis, but there could be, a few million in exposure in between the actual origination and termination of the call. So the benefit of our platform is that because there's real-time settlement, if somebody's funding Orange here, then the money can just move in real time. Just 100,000 can move in real time through the whole supply chain to get to the terminating party in real time. Okay, so it means that it's more capital efficient. So the way that I can relate this into crypto speak is we're all waiting for Uniswap version 3 in a couple of days' time, right? And one of the things that Hayden writes about is capital efficiency when it comes to creating liquidity pools. And we know that most liquidity providers on Uniswap who post liquidity, they're going to suffer from some form of impermanent loss. And impermanent loss is a feature of you may be sometimes using too much liquidity and not provisioning that liquidity correctly so that it's more efficient and works for you better. Okay, ComSettle does that for telcos. It allows someone at the top, close to the origination of a call, to fund the call, i.e. the market maker, and ComSettle allows for the real-time settlement through the supply chain so that only that amount that is being settled upon is flown through the supply chain. What that means is that you don't have disparity in payment schedules between the supply chain. What you have is just money moving straight through so that everybody gets paid, everybody's guaranteed of getting paid, and then ultimately the end supplier receives their money quicker so that there's no loss in service.
Okay, thank you. Let's go a little bit to the questions our viewers are asking in the chats, because I think one question is about what's the number one strategy of the team and how can crypto investors believe in Enreach? And I think we haven't touched too much on what the role of the token is in the ecosystem. So maybe if you could go a little bit deeper into that, we answer this question too.
At the heart of what Enreach DAO is that if you were to break it down into simple terms, we are a token contract on one side and staking contracts on the other side. Okay, the concept of Enreach DAO was to take liquidity from crypto and use that liquidity in order to fund debt receivables in the telecom market originally. Okay, and what that required was an interoperability between fiat bank accounts and a fiat infrastructure, as well as the decentralized crypto infrastructure that we're building. Okay, now, as I mentioned, Enreach DAO, the point and the utility of our solution and our community is staking contracts and a token contract. So what we created was a mechanism whereby the token contract is almost like the key in order to use the staking contracts. So I wrote a Medium article a few days ago, which was titled, I think it was Algorithmic Central Reserve Bank. Okay, now the way in which we intend to deliver liquidity into the telco market through receivables, or even any market, whatever market that might be, we intend to do that through the mechanism of stablecoins, and we've created we have designed a mechanism that allows us to create a stablecoin distribution backed by assets. Okay, a basket of assets. So in order to create let's say $100 million worth of NUSD stablecoin, we would need to have a basket of assets that would allow us to peg this distributed value of stablecoin towards. Okay, so those assets could be Bitcoin, and funnily enough, Bitcoin was the original the original liquidity that we had from a liquidity provider out in the Arabic states. So it could be Bitcoin, it could be Ethereum, it could be Binance Coin, it could be Solana. I mentioned Binance Coin because we're about to deliver a bridge for Binance Smart Chain from Ethereum, and maybe Solana is the next network that we're going to interop into. It could be fiat. It could be, in addition to fiat, it could be other assets, real world assets. And one of those real world assets that we tend to talk about are receivables. Okay, so the mechanism that we have created is ultimately token contract linked to a staking contract. And those staking contracts, if you want to collateralize your asset, if you want to collateralize your invoice, or if you want to collateralize your fiat for the crypto market to interact with DeFi, or if you've got Bitcoin and you want to use that asset in order to, effectively yield more, you can stake into our staking contracts that we are going to deliver in the near future. But in order to do that, you will need to have a level of the NRCH token in order to deposit. Now, let's say you've got a $40 million worth of Bitcoin. You're lucky enough to have $40 billion worth of Bitcoin. Then the number of NRCH that you would need will be regulated by our risk committee, and it will be subject to us creating almost like a safe peg against the Bitcoin value using Enreach, so that the distribution, not the peg towards the US dollar value, but the distribution of the number of stable coins can remain consistent and stable. Okay, so if you've got 40 million worth of Bitcoin, for argument's sake, the value of NRCH could be $5 million worth of NRCH. This is a notional value. It's yet to be regulated or confirmed by our risk committee, but these are notional values I'm talking about. So you might need $5 million worth of NRCH in order to deposit $40 million worth of Bitcoin, and as a result, that would create $40 million worth of NUSD stablecoin. Okay, so the utility of our token is linked to the utility of our staking contracts, and the staking contracts all have various mechanisms in force that allow for liquidity to be tracked and used for the benefit of the ecosystem. And our overall goal is to deliver the distribution of stablecoins, which would interoperate with banking infrastructure that we deliver on our Optimize company through our Conceptor platform, or whether it's through the distribution of these stablecoins across DeFi and exchanges, so that they can be used just as we use USDC or USDT as stablecoins to interact with the crypto industry.
I think this is where the pieces start to fit together, where your experience from telecom market, the banking structure, and crypto all are intertwined, and this token is the center of it. I think some followers and viewers are interested in also how you want to push this further to the crypto community. Often they are interested in when will it be listed on exchanges, because currently it's listed on the Binance network and ERC20. Are there any plans to develop and get in contact with top exchanges, for example?
So we have specific tokenomics for our NRCH token, and this is something that is becoming very prevalent with DeFi tokens nowadays. I think even projects that you've seen, such as SafeMoon, which I don't recommend, but you've seen a lot of these projects who have forked this rebase mechanism, from which actually was originated from Reflect.finance, RFI token. So we are a rebase token, just like RFI, and many of these 660 forks that have come around as a result of the original code of RFI. The issue with rebase tokens and their tokenomics is that we have a 2% tax currently on the sell side of the NRCH token, meaning that if you sell the NRCH token on PancakeSwap or on Uniswap, then you will be taxed 2% of that sell. 1% goes to the liquidity providers who are staking through our interfaces for liquidity mining incentives, which we're due to deliver. And the other 1% is redistributed to the network of token holders. Okay, we've been down this process with listing RFI on Bitmart Exchange, whereby the issue with a centralized exchange is that it's off-chain. Okay, and with an off-chain mechanism, you're reliant upon that party, being the centralized exchange, to manage certain aspects that you can actually automate on-chain. Okay, so the issue we had when we listed RFI on Bitmart Exchange was that, first of all, there was no way of distributing the 1% fee to all the token holders, whether they're on the exchange or whether they're on-chain in their wallets. So we do want to list on a centralized exchange, but when we go through the process of due diligence with the exchanges, and we've been through many, okay, typically the issue is handling that off-chain infrastructure. Now, we have fantastic advisors, part of our community. As I mentioned, Source Digital Assets. There's also Sam Proctor and his team of Genesis Block, who are US compliance experts. These guys work with exchanges such as Bitmart, Huobi, many other exchanges, Coinbase, and it's a relationship-driven network to get onto an exchange, or you have to provide a huge amount of value to that exchange, whether that's the community that's interacting with your token, or it's traders who want to trade your token. So the issue we have is that, yes, we want to get onto these exchanges, but we don't want to kill the whole concept of the redistribution of the taxes and have a huge amount of volume on an exchange, which doesn't then be transposed back to all our token holders. So what we are looking at is, we always look at the exchanges and make sure that we're in a situation where, if we are to list and we have to pay the listing fees, for example, MXC exchange, we had a deal with MXC that we felt that they were a good partner who could actually deliver on the redistribution of our taxes to their wallet holders as well as back onto the chain. But we didn't get anything in writing from them that would say that if we are not able to deliver, and this is what we are aiming to deliver, we're aiming to deliver a redistribution based on, say, a 1-minute snapshot of our balances of our users, and we can do the distribution of tokens on this periodic time frame. What we wanted something in writing that said that in the case that they weren't able to deliver, that we could get our money back for the listing fee. But unfortunately, the exchanges are very busy because they're listing tokens on a 3-4 times a day. So we weren't able to agree on terms in order to really protect the funds that we've raised under Enreach DAO. And as a result, it leaves us in a position where we're talking to exchanges, but not getting the reassurances that we're not wasting money for that. And I think, with Bitmart, we went through the experience with RFI that because we had a personal relationship with Wen Wang, who is the managing partner and the founder of Labs Group, because we had a personal relationship there, I was able to, get a refund. And, Bitmart are good guys. They're a good exchange for their region. And as a result, they weren't able to do the token distribution the way we wanted, and they were more than happy to refund the money. So it was a loss of time and a loss of effort, not a loss of money in the end. But we don't mind spending the time and effort in exploring and integrating with a centralized exchange. We just don't want our community to have a loss of money in that regard. So I understand.
It's a good cause here, yeah, because
I understand that we all want to get on an exchange. Ultimately, I think as one of our risk committee, Johnny Tyrone says, if we're going to go big, let's go big. Let's aim for the best exchange. And I think we all know what the best and largest exchanges are. Do we have inroads into them? We might. Are we ready to approach them with a solution? No, we're not. Will we be approaching them with a solution? 100% we will. But in the short term, what we are looking for is we're looking at DEXs that have order book technology. I mentioned Solana. I am followed by SBF Sam on Twitter. I do have a group with him and his team on Telegram. We're not quite there yet to be listed on an FTX, if I'm honest. It is something that we would want to list with. We are looking to get our network interoperated into Solana at some point so that we can either build out our own order book, a closed limit order book DEX, which, Sam is very vocal on Twitter. He does tell and advise people he's built code on FERRUM and that anybody can fork FERRUM. And there are ways in which you can fork FERRUM so that you don't have a swap environment, but you actually have the equivalent of a centralized exchange environment, being a closed limit order book. And worst comes to worst, if we can't get a centralized exchange to list us with the user experience that we want to deliver, we'll just go build it. In the end, we're builders, and that's what we do. So if we have to, we'll build a DEX on Solana or even on Ethereum or even on Binance Smart Chain, which gives our users the experience of an exchange, but through a decentralized exchange structure.
I like that mentality, keep building in the crypto space and don't get held back by any of these resistances from the players already there. And I think that's what DeFi is doing more and more. They are more true to crypto by being decentralized and not caring about decentralized exchanges. I think it's mostly, and that's why I asked this question, like, the investors in crypto want to see it list on a bigger exchange. But what you see currently is that a lot of newer investors are equally proficient in using something like PancakeSwap or Uniswap. And those are contracts and tokens, exchanges your token is listed on. So they still have a way to get Enreach. And I like that a lot of builders thought that in their DeFi protocols, they needed, whether it's burn or transaction costs, and give that back to the community and don't want to change that for a centralized exchange.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's one of those situations where, what is a centralized exchange in the end? What do we use Binance for? What do we use Coinbase for? I use it in order to get money in and out in fiat from crypto. And I think many of us do the same. I've been trading on DEXs for a while. I still trade on Binance, but considering we're doing an AMA for Birb Nest, who I've been following Birb since I actually got into trading myself with my original Link tokens. And ultimately, traders want the ability to use stop loss. They want to be able to set limits on their sells and their buys, and they use these mechanisms in order to protect their trading ideas, hypotheses, right? So what you want to deliver is you want to deliver something that's not based on this pure swap mechanism whereby you have the same experience, and we can build that now on the blockchain networks. You look at projects such as DidX. DidX is DYDX. it's the same. It's order book tech on a layer 2 sitting on Ethereum. You look at Radium. Radium is order book tech, which is a fork of FERRUM, whereby they've been able to change something within the code that allows them to focus on the closed limit order book. And so ultimately you can deliver that on the networks 100%. But if you look at also what some of the centralized exchanges are doing, Binance created Binance Smart Chain. You've got Huobi that created their Echo chain, and I think KuCoin even created their own blockchain network as well. So you're going to have an advent of swap mechanisms turning up on these blockchains that belong to the centralized exchanges, where the centralized exchange is your on-ramp or your off-ramp for fiat. Now, we've always envisaged that, considering we're in the business of delivering financial technology in a regulated fashion through our company Optimize, which is regulated with the FCA and is regulated with Bank of Lithuania, and soon will be regulated in the US, that we will be able to deliver the ability to move fiat into crypto using the stablecoin infrastructure. We've always envisioned that. Why not put the on-ramps directly onto the blockchain? Why not put the on-ramps into within a mechanism so that if you're trading on a DEX, that you can send your fiat, however much it is, to a specific bank account, which maybe you own, okay? And from that bank account, you're able to then draw down on some stable coins, NUSD, and Euro, whatever it might be, okay? And then use those stable coins in order to run your trading activity on a DEX, whether it's a swap mechanism or an order book technology. So ultimately, this comes back to the ethos of what we have, which is interoperating with different systems, different architectures, so that we can deliver a better experience into DeFi. And it all comes from the experiences that we've all had, which is we all send money in and out of the centralized exchanges. And from there, we are able to swap into another coin, which then we can then interact with whatever protocol we're interacting with to do our trading or to do our yield farming. So the same experience we want to deliver, but with the advent of decentralized exchanges, they are going to have the ability through projects like us, through other projects, which, to be fair, I haven't seen any yet, who are going to on and off ramp fiat directly into, whether it's a layer 2 or whether it's a layer 1 blockchain of some sort, in a way where you send your money in and you get something on the other side, so that you can start interacting immediately rather than going through a centralized exchange. The other side of what we're focusing on is Enreach DAO. One thing that we learned is that if you want to build this type of infrastructure, it's I call it a algorithmic central reserve bank. Okay, you look at other projects who do similar, like Cello. Okay, Cello I love that project. It's they effectively use their Cello token in order to create their stablecoin infrastructure. And so the way they work is that if and I think there's another one as well, Luna as well. If there's the peg is being lost on their stablecoin, they market make on their native token, so that they can inflate or deflate their value to manage the distribution of their stablecoin, which was one of the reasons why we wanted to focus on market making as a community in Enreach DAO, and we went through the experience of market making the RFI token on Bitmont Exchange. So again, the whole point of what we're trying to do is to create this structure so that you have this interaction and distribution of liquidity out in DeFi that can be used by anybody. But at the same time, the byproduct of what we've built to date is smart contracts and assets that can be used by other projects to launch into DeFi, so that they can bring their use cases through our staking contracts and through our token contracts and the assets that we have built, so that they can also create their structures in DeFi, so that we could be their market makers and create a more deeper structure around, more deeper value in around the NRCH token and the stable coins that we are pushing out.
Okay, cool. That's one way to push through. And I think I see a question about what's up for Enreach in the future and what you're building on. So the question is, have you got a clear roadmap, deadline set by yourself, a white paper, business partners, and how will you comply with regulatory where you are? I already know you're complying a lot with the regulations and you've done a lot of research. I think we can sum up a little bit what we have talked about in the last 50 minutes by answering this question, I think.
Yeah, so from a regulatory perspective, we went through a fair launch for the NRCH token, which was a regulated fair launch, albeit we went through the whole risk vectors attached to raising on a pre-sale for a DeFi token. And again, a lot of plaudits go to Genesis Block, Sam Proctor, and Souls Digital Assets, Brian Elders, who supported us through that process. So we mitigated as many of the risk factors that we could from future litigation against from the SEC, the FinCEN, FINRA, so that we could deliver a solution to US investors in the future. So from a regulatory perspective, we're pretty clued on, and at the same time, optimize our company. We're a regulated fintech in the UK and Europe, and soon the US. So it is the arena that we come from. So regulation is at the heart of what we do. And what also I didn't mention is that there was regulation pushed through with the banking sector in the US at the back end of last year, whereby the banks have been effectively, they've got legislation in place which says that USD stablecoins pegged to the USD value can be interoperated between banks. So this is a very big, opportunity for Enreach DAO to really get a large foothold in the stablecoin distribution of what we're doing. Now, in terms of roadmap, what is Enreach DAO? Enreach DAO really is turning into a launchpad, very similar to DAO Maker, DuckDAO. But what are we launching? We're launching real world use cases into DeFi in order for DeFi mechanics and DeFi liquidity to be used for not just for the benefit of the users, but also for the benefit of the real world use cases that we're launching through the Enreach DAO infrastructure. Okay. I understand people want to read something, a white paper, update of a website. 100% I get that. Unfortunately, what we have is we're very busy building all the time. And we're also very busy pitching to business partners and investors who are looking to use our infrastructure in one way or another. So we've got a simple act in that we like to keep our Medium articles updated. They're not just ramblings of thoughts, but they are always in and around the use cases of what we're trying to build upon. And the last Medium article that we released, the one before this one that you're showing on the screen about the Central Reserve Bank, is the pure use case of what Enreach DAO is focusing on in the short term, which is staking contracts that provide utility to our token holders, and then using those staking contract infrastructure to further move forward with the distribution of stablecoins so that we can meet the purposes of the use cases that we have in front of us, which is the telecom receivables, as well as future use cases with other projects. In terms of business partners, we do actually have a pipeline of business partners who are going to be working with us on Enreach DAO. These are business partners that many of the industry wouldn't have heard of, because our focus is on real world use cases. So right now, the most interesting one that I'm talking to, and there's a lot of interesting ones, but probably the closest one to launch through us is it's a bunch of traditional finance guys in the US, sort of like a consortium of guys, lawyers, traditional finance guys, bankers, who have a contract to retrofit coal power stations in the third world. And they've got a specific contract with a coal power station in Asia, where when they retrofit this coal power station, they will reduce the amount of coal needed to create output of electricity. And it also reduces the amount of emissions from that coal power station as a result of this technology that they're retrofitting. Okay. Now they're looking to raise the funds that allow them to retrofit the power station. They tend to get a revenue stream as a result of the cost savings involved with the less usage of the coal, and on top of that, it generates carbon credits. Okay, carbon credits are effectively, if you're a polluting company, then you have to have carbon credits in order to offset. You have to buy carbon credits in order to offset the pollution that you're putting into the atmosphere. So companies like Tesla, for argument's sake, they generate huge amounts of carbon credits, and they go and sell them on the open market. And so we're working with this project so that we can not only help them raise the funds, and these are, traditional finance guys, massive experience, they could easily raise the money elsewhere, but we've convinced them that decentralized finance is the new norm and the new medium in which that they should explore, and that we can support them with token contracts and staking contracts so that they can not only to give utility to the NRCH token, but to deliver on the mechanisms that they need in order to meet the business model of retrofitting coal power stations in the jurisdictions where they have contracts and business deals lined up.
Wow, that's a lot of a lot of work, but I'm definitely interested in what's coming and keeping an eye on the medium, the Twitter. So I think I want to thank you for this nice introduction to Enreach, and I think a lot of listeners know a lot more about the telecom industry through this webinar. Is there a way how we can follow you or follow Enreach? What's the best way to keep up to date with the project and with your personal opinion and goals?
So yes, you can. Best way is to follow us on Twitter. So at OnReachDAO is our Twitter handle for OnReachDAO. My own personal Twitter handle is at DeFiCash, which you can also follow me. We have our Telegram group, which you can find from our Twitter handles or our website. Our Medium articles are our best place for new news that we release. And even though we haven't updated our website since launch, we are actually upgrading our website, which is going to be our DApp, so that you can interact, so our users can interact with the yield farming and liquidity mining incentives that we're putting forward, as well as the future stablecoin infrastructure as well. So best place is Twitter. And then please, anybody who has questions, come to our Telegram group. We tend to have some really smart individuals there who have fantastic conversations, and we're always open to further those conversations with our community. And last point I'd like to make is that if there are any developers listening out there who, if you're coding in Viper logic, even Solidity logic, and you have a background in Rust or Python, please get in touch. We are recruiting. We're recruiting on both our company Optimize as well as on ReachDAO. We can offer stable careers and stable income if you're a contractor. But if you're just looking to be a part of the community and contribute, please get in touch. We are always more than welcome to speak with other fellow builders and offer a route to compensate for your value.
Wow, many opportunities in the Enreach environment and in the ecosystem. So I can definitely recommend going to the Telegram. I learned a lot about the project there, and I will definitely keep an eye on the Telegram and Medium for time to come. Okay, thank you again for being on our webinar, being our first guest to kick off the 200K Congress. And for our viewers, make sure you sign up and join the Discord so you don't miss any other webinars. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, guys. It was a massive pleasure. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Prime XBT is the most powerful trading platform offering immediate access to over 30 assets. Trade cryptocurrencies, Forex, commodities, stock indices, and much more, all from a single Bitcoin settled account. Visit the link below and start trading on Prime XBT in minutes.
FERRUM Network is an interoperable DeFi ecosystem offering token pre-sales, staking as a service, project incubation, and much more. Visit thebirbnest.com/FERRUM. Globe is an upcoming crypto derivatives exchange offering up to 100 times leverage on crypto and DeFi perpetual contracts. Sign up for early rewards at thebirbnest.com/globe. RADIX is the first Layer 1 protocol built specifically to serve DeFi. More information at thebirbnest.com/radix. YFDAI is democratizing finance by creating the most secure, transparent, and user-friendly ecosystem of DeFi products. To learn more, visit thebirbnest.com/YFDAI.